you doing?
Your tooth?
Yeah, it was loose straw in my mouth.
So you just spit your tooth into the bag?
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's good, but when you threw up, you just the whole counter, but the tooth you put in the bag. I just that one made sense.
Put it under your pillow for the tooth fairy.
Hi, this is Caitlin.
And this is Sharon.
And welcome to Real Housewives on Real Housewives, where we unravel housewives' story threads and keep the tea flowing.
So chic.
Hold on to your carry-ons.
We're digging into Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip Season 1.
So you guys voted on our social media and Ultimate Girls Trip won out. So you can go on our Twitter or Instagram, which is RH_on_RH for both, and let us know if you like the Ultimate Girls Trips or if you've seen them. Anyway, we are in Turks and Caicos with a bunch of the housewives from different franchises. And let's go through the cast.
Yeah. So first we have Kyle Richards from Beverly Hills, who I know you and I both like.
Yes.
From New York City, we have Luann de Lesseps and Ramona Singer. Mm-hmm. From Atlanta, we have Kenya Moore and Cynthia Bailey. And then from New Jersey, we have Teresa Giudice and Melissa Gorga.
Yep. So our verses for this trip will be Cynthia versus Kenya and then Ramona versus everyone. And kind of our takeaway is that Ramona's complaining ruins the vibe of the trip. That's the thesis of the trip. Every road leads back to Ramona bumming everybody out.
That sums up
being rude and
season
being
1.
Crazy. Yep. Trying to decide if that's partially true of New York too, and it may be. All right, who's completely new to you? There's no one who's completely new to me, although it's been a while since I've seen New Jersey.
Yeah, for me it was Kenya, Cynthia, and Melissa.
Okay.
And I ended up loving Cynthia, which we'll talk about.
Yes. Okay, so I'm really glad about that because I love Cynthia, but I was worried that she didn't read well during this.
And I kind of think she didn't come off well, but she came off how I felt how she felt.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I could understand her.
Yeah, I mean, I still think who she was and her personality still shone through. She just kind of got stuck in the middle of some drama, but we'll talk about that. So one of the things that Cynthia does is they have this Bailey Q, which is a thing she does in Atlanta. And it's sort of, they kind of refer to it as the shady Q often in her group in Atlanta. But she kind of gives awards for people based on like an adjective that describes them. So they had a list of them. We took that list and they handed them out on the show, but we're going to hand them out to the cast on our own votes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Sexiest.
I said Kenya.
Pretty good. Yeah.
I
said really Luann in a very different kind of way.
She's very classic.
Pettiest.
Obviously Ramona for me.
Yes. There was no other choice. Smartest.
I said Luann. And the reason I said that is I feel like she keeps pulling herself out of bad situations really well. Like she's able to turn kind of a downfall in something into a moneymaker or into something that makes her actually more famous or cooler or more interesting. And I think that's an incredible talent. So I felt like that made her really smart.
That is interesting because I wouldn't have thought of her as super intelligent. Not that she's not, but
no, she just can use a business opportunity. Who did you say for smartest?
I put Cynthia. I really didn't know, but I just got the feeling that Cynthia kind of knew what was up, and
she's pretty wise. I
think. Prettiest.
I said Melissa. I think she's really pretty.
Beautiful. Yeah. I said Kenya. Shadiest.
Well, I said Cynthia only because the Bailey Q is shady.
What?
Shady Q. Well, her game through shade, so I felt like she was.
But
the
all
shadiest.
these things are nice. See, this is what I don't get. Like the categories are nice. They're like sexiest, smartest. There's like one or two pettiest.
That's true. Well, I felt like shady doesn't even have to be bad. Like a lot of the housewives prize themselves for being shady.
Oh.
And I feel like in playing the game, I thought Cynthia was trying to say like shady doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Okay, yeah.
Otherwise, I guess it would have been Ramona.
It's kind of interesting. Well, that's what I have. I have Ramona, of course.
Okay, if it says sketchiest, I would have said Ramona.
I guess there is. Best butt.
I said Kenya because she was the sexiest.
Yeah. I put Teresa.
Yeah, she had a good butt too.
Yep. Sweetest.
I said Teresa, and I kind of think that everyone agreed with that on the trip because, like, Kenya thought she was so sweet and so, like, having such a good point finally in her life that she gave her that free trip when they did the Bailey Bowl.
Yeah.
That was, like, the prize up for grabs. And I don't know. Teresa was sweet.
I put Teresa, too. And then lastly is most fashionable.
I said Kyle, and I think that's kind of a leftover from Beverly Hills, honestly.
Yeah. Because normally I like how Kyle dresses, but on vacation she always does those flowy, are they called kaftans?
Yes.
What are they called?
I think that is what they're
called. I get a little tired of them.
I think it was a hard trip to judge fashion on.
Because they're mostly wearing...
They really didn't have a big fancy night out so much. Yeah. They were kind of in their beachwear the whole time.
Yeah, I put Luann.
Yeah, she always dresses well too. Mm-hmm. So our first versus is Cynthia versus Kenya, and this has a lot to do with the Bailey Q. We both liked Cynthia a lot. So Cynthia on her theme night did this Bailey Q. She asked kind of personal questions and then gave people labels. So everyone is sitting around and waiting, and Kenya is 70 minutes late because she was getting her hair and makeup done. And while waiting around, everyone's not eating. They haven't started the game, but they're kind of like, well, I'll tell you the rules of the game. And Kyle hears the categories the ones we just voted on above. And Kyle is worried that she can't judge people. And Cynthia says, it's so funny to me that a group of women that can be so petty had such a problem with talking about being petty. Do you think Kyle had a legitimate point?
No, I don't understand where Kyle was coming from. I mean, like saying so, she really got hung up on the prettiest.
Oh my gosh.
And
really
like going on, I have 4 daughters. How can I say someone's the prettiest?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's something nice. And you say something different that's nice about the other girls.
Yeah, and on different days, you could give different answers. I think it's just a chance for you to say something to somebody.
Yeah, I think as long as you gave a kind thing to everyone or everyone got one kind thing, then it's fine.
I think maybe they just shouldn't have mixed in like shady and petty with the other ones.
I mean, I think those would have been, as long as those people got a good one too.
Yes, I agree. So. But even still, it's like the whole issue is really that Kenya comes in late. Well, first of all, she gets food for herself and is like, isn't my blood sugars off or something? And she sits down and like everyone had been waiting the full 70 minutes to eat. And now she's eating and they hadn't been eating. And the problem is she jumps in on Kyle's side. And instead of being like, hey, Cynthia's a safe place, you know, and I've played this game before and it's really fun and it brings out good sides in people. She's just kind of like, well, in Atlanta, it's cool to throw shade and maybe here it isn't. Mm-hmm. And...
But she didn't even make it sound like, oh, you know, we do it in Atlanta, but maybe here it's a little different. She said that to Cynthia later. But at the table, she made it sound like
Cynthia was doing a bad thing.
maybe this is not a very nice thing to do.
I agree. She jumped in not just with Kyle, but she like really hung on to the fact that it wasn't kind. She's like, I can't believe we judged that. Like, it's almost like she was sitting with the other cool girls and she threw Cynthia under the bus.
Yes, that's very much what it felt like.
And she shaded her potato salad, which I thought was really mean because on Atlanta, Cynthia's kind of like famous or at least really proud of her potato salad. Okay. And I Googled it.
Yeah.
And Glamour magazine had her recipe. It's red or white potatoes. It's red onion. It's bread and butter pickles, pimentos, Duke's mayonnaise. I don't know that. It's or Hellman's. Brown mustard and hard-boiled eggs. So there you go. That's what makes an award-winning potato salad that your friends will shade.
I will how can you go wrong with those ingredients?
I know.
How could you really mess
That's why I felt like it was just mean. Like, was the potato salad really, or was she just being like...
Yeah, like, how bad potato salad?
Yeah. I think Cynthia felt extra hurt, too, because on the airplane, she really stood up for Kenya. Like, she did a presentation about it was the first time Kenya was leaving her daughter, which was a big deal on the Atlanta show, and that she should have the master suite. So she went to bat for her, and then this really causes like a rift and a distance between them the rest of the trip.
Yeah, Cynthia went into this kind of being excited and having Kenya on her side.
Yeah, she
but
thought
it
they'd
just
be a team.
feels like Kenya ditched her kind of to hang out with the other ladies. Like instead of trying to bring Cynthia in with her to the other ladies, it felt like she just left her.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's exactly what happened. And like when Cynthia comes to work it out at the end of the vacation, Kenya really dismisses it. When they did the Watch What Happens Live, like pre-show that they dropped when the first episodes came out on Peacock, like we find out that they talked through it, but Cynthia's like, we're in a good place, but like it's a very different place. And Kenya's like, oh, I'm excited where we are. And Cynthia's kind of like, but it's a different where we are. So it's like, I do feel bad because I think this thing wasn't that big, but it changed the course of their friendship. And Cynthia's also kind of moved more West Coast. Like she's going to be a friend of on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I think this season, which will be fun.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So maybe that's space. Like maybe there'd been space, there'd been quarantine space and all that. And they just, when they came back together, it didn't vibe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who do you think wins?
Well, I mean, no one, because Cynthia just seems so sad about it. It really, like my feelings were hurt for her. Yeah. You could tell she was hurt. And it almost seemed like Kenya didn't care she was hurt.
Yes, I agree. I felt like public opinion would fall on the side of Cynthia. At least it did for us. But I feel like Kenya kind of like won just by sort of like bulldozing over the situation. Yeah. And it did change the friendship. Like,
and maybe she wanted
that. Yeah. I don't know. So. All right. So we'll go on to the big theme of the show, which is Ramona. Right. So Ramona's inflated ego is the whole problem, I think. Like she has a history of always getting the best room. And so she puts on this play when she gets there kind of like with the staff. And she's like, I don't understand. Like I was so kind and I let Kenya have the master suite. And I took the second best room and I don't understand what I did wrong.
Like just assuming that she gets it.
She's so like benevolent.
That it's hers to give away.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm sorry, was she hosting this trip? Like she won't share the tennis court, the tennis pro. Like she's very...
That was weird.
Selfish.
Yeah, because didn't she say like she doesn't, because she didn't understand tennis well enough or no tennis
and
well enough.
We've seen her play tennis. Just because she's not good at it doesn't mean she doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
Do you think Ramona is actually as clueless as she plays it off to be?
Oh my gosh. I want to think so, but I don't think she could possibly be that clueless. I think she's like says stupid stuff without thinking, but on the other hand, she's been on the show how many years?
Yeah.
And people have pointed this stuff out to her. And then she goes like, oh, I'm sorry. And she's so quick to apologize. It's like she knows where she screwed up.
Yeah.
So I think she just doesn't take the time to slow down to make sure she's doing the right thing.
Or accept responsibility at all.
Yeah.
I also think that when the way she grew up in the business world, it was a different time. And I feel like she kind of learned that if you come off as not a threat to all the, like a male dominated field, that maybe you can get further if you're like, oh, it's just little old me, don't pay any attention. And then like you can get further. And so I think she kind of learned to do that and she still does it. Like, oh, I'm not a problem. Like, I'm just not. But then she also makes problems. It's like she can't, I don't know, she can't balance those two things out. Like she starts off the trip wrong, like she's B-wording people. And like Melissa says, it's Ramona's world and we're all just effing living in it. And that's also the whole vacation pretty much. But remember, Ramona was a trendsetter because she was like the first one to wear crop tops to her local gym in New York.
And then everyone started wearing crop tops to the gym.
Across the nation,
I thought for sure she was going to like laugh and joke after but she was being really serious.
But like it was interesting because, again, with the clueless thing, like both she and Teresa had started out as buyers for Macy's and worked in Herald Square in New York. And they both were like Calvin Klein in different areas.
And that really impressed me.
Because I felt like, okay, you guys legitimately hustled into some big deal jobs. And then I said to you, and plus like, I couldn't believe Teresa went to Berkeley.
And I was like, which Berkeley?
And I was like, there's only one Berkeley, right? And you're like, I Googled.
There's a Berkeley in New Jersey.
So there's a Berkeley in New Jersey, and it's not the same Berkeley. Yeah. But
it's probably a wonderful school, but it's not Berkeley.
No, exactly. Well, it's like Sharon went to a Harvard.
I did. I went to the Harvard of the Midwest.
It's like, I'm now realizing there's just names that match everything.
And Caitlin's dad went to Stanford.
That's right. He went to Samford in Alabama. But if you say that fast and with a Southern accent, it sounds like Stanford. So, yeah. So she didn't go to the Berkeley, but she went to a Berkeley. I do love the talking heads on this Ultimate Girls trip just because I think we have pros working them. Like, they're great confessionals.
They were fun.
So Ramona goes on to have an issue with Luann first. So Luann gets emotional about being in the public eye and makes getting a man harder. And Ramona, it's so awkward. Like, you're just sitting in a booth in a restaurant and you have to get out. So Ramona decides, she's heard the story from Luann. She's not going to hear it again. And she just gets up and sort of excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, pardon me. Oh, I'm sorry, you're crying. Can you move? So awkward.
And when everyone looks at her, what the heck? That's rude. And she's like, well, I've heard this story before.
Yeah. Everybody's dude, that's not cool. Everybody. Not someone was oh, she had to pee.
Yeah.
They're like.
Yeah. I mean, it's you only get to tell me your stories once. I don't care how serious it is.
I would do terribly in that relationship because I don't remember telling half of my story. And those other women had not heard the story, to be fair.
Yeah.
And then Ramona says that Tom is a trigger for her. It's Luann's excuse me, I was married to him. Yes. Our relationship fell apart. He cheated on me. And I'm sorry, you have a trigger about that. Which is just another clue that Ramona's so self-involved. It's
exactly.
Funny.
Self-absorbed. It's how can you make Luann's marriage about you?
Exactly. In divorce. And I think also, we go on a second boat. Housewives need to stay off boats. Can we get a sign that says no more Sprinter vans on the water? Every time we get on a boat, it's Lord of the Flies or something. It just all goes sideways.
Yeah.
So on the second boat, Ramona also points out that Luann slept with Tom the first night they met. And Luann gets mad and she's like, darn right I did. And then Ramona's well, I just said that. What is it she says?
So Luann, she just didn't want the information out there, I guess.
I think it had made this far without it being told.
Exactly.
And it makes her sound.
And Ramona obviously gave out this info, knowing she probably shouldn't. And then she does it under the guise of, well, I wish I could do that.
I want to be cool like you.
I wish I could be that freer. I don't even know what she says. She makes it sound like she admires Luann for it, when that's not why she said it. She didn't say it in this ode to Luann.
No, she's trying to confuse the situation.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, you misread me. I didn't understand.
And then, the thing with, so Kyle gets involved.
Oh, yeah.
And she says to Ramona, well, how many times have you slept with the guy you just met? And Ramona says, never. And Kyle says, oh my gosh, you're acting holier than thou. But if you read Kyle's book.
Which we read it for you.
We read it for you. You can go listen to our
welcome.
podcast on it. She makes it sound like you should never, ever, ever sleep with someone on the first date. So it's kind of...
So she's contradicting.
Yeah, she's contradicting what she said in her book.
Yeah.
Her book was
Kyle.
Horrible. But...
Maybe she didn't write it, didn't remember it.
You should still listen to our episode. But...
You should, because we explain it well. Yeah. And then you don't have to read the book. So then... Ramona says she's a girl's girl, which all I could think about was Ramona and that birthday party she had where she was and 30 of my closest friends are going to be there. It's oh, come on. Who's 30 close friends? Who's 30 friends once you're over the age of 30?
From Beverly Hills.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Crystal does not anymore, though. And Ramona probably doesn't either.
That's true.
But so Kenya's oh, come on. That's a croca. I'm going to say hooey. But then Ramona ends up saying the F word to Kenya, and there's this big fight between them. So then we move into Ramona versus Kenya. Kenya either pulls the glass of tequila out of Ramona's hand, reaches for her arm. I couldn't tell what was going on, but either way, she's all after she swore, she reached for Ramona. Mm-hmm. And essentially Ramona throws the glass. I kind of felt like she was going to throw the glass on Kenya and missed and let go of the glass.
Oh,
but I don't know. I kind of wonder. Housewives love throwing glasses.
They do.
Of liquid at each other. I think what it shows is that Ramona can't take responsibility for anything she says. She just was not my fault. I'm sorry, but always is her thing. And then she kind of says the F-U was playful. And she said that on the plane. The B word was playful. Oh, when I called when I said Luann was bad for sleeping with Tom, I just want to be like her. It's Ramona lighting.
What's kind of funny is Cynthia got in trouble for trying to point out who's the prettiest.
Right.
Whereas Ramona can do a loving, funny F you.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It seems really mean, but then she was just joking. She's just a really good actor.
Yeah.
No, she's not. I loved when Cynthia said she's a little low-key delusional and she's definitely got a little lying problem. I just love the way she said it. I was like, Cynthia's the smartest, you're right.
Yeah.
So who wins?
Oh, gosh. I mean, the ladies just pity Ramona.
Yes, that's absolutely what it is.
It's like sad.
It's totally sad.
It's sad, but you don't necessarily feel bad for her.
Right.
Like, feel a little bad for her.
Yeah, because they're mad in that moment. Like, they'll snap in response to her. But after it, they're just like, she's pathetic and she's over it and we're over it. I also think it just proves, I guess my takeaway is that Ramona's time has come and gone. Like, I think Bravo needs to put her on a pause. We'll talk about that in season 3. Yeah. I just think we're done with Ramona. Like, she's had so many strikes against her at this point with the way New York ended, with the way she acts here. She's not relevant and she's a problem. And I think we could have had a really interesting trip, but it almost became a little dull. Like you'd said, it was hard to get into.
Yes, it was. After the first episode, I was kind of bored.
Yeah. And I think it's because every drama was like Ramona. The problem's Ramona. It's like we didn't even get to see anything interesting all that much between, because then here would come Ramona and ruin the moment. It was like someone's grandma just walking. I don't know, saying something dumb, and everybody's like, well, there goes that interesting conversation. Like, that's what it felt like. Let's say, just for a little bit of fun, like, what were our favorite moments?
Melissa's pajama party that she hosted. They played different games and they were just having a blast. And I laughed really hard watching them.
It was such a girls' night.
I wanted to be there at that party.
I kind of loved the astrologer party because it was very like reminiscent of early Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Like Kyle even was pretending like she was kind of smoking that, like vaping thing. And the lady was like, oh, you were a man. And Kyle's like, I've heard that before. It's just, I don't know. I just kind of loved all that. Let's give one little shout out. Like, if you guys would share our podcast, maybe find a friend, send it to them. We just would like to get out there a little bit more follows, more likes. Like, we love doing this. We want to keep doing this. And if you love us, I want us to keep doing it. Then share us with someone else you love.
Yes. And follow us.
Share our joy. And remember, housewives bring the drama.
We bring the receipts.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to help support us, please share it with others and leave a rating and review. Also, visit us on Instagram and Twitter, both at RH_on_RH for fun pictures and polls, or email us at rhonrhpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again, and remember to stay out of the shade.